Welcome to Watch the Book. Today we present The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, published in 1886. Mr. Utterson, a reserved and respectable London lawyer, is a man of routine and quiet disposition, known for his tolerance and loyalty to friends, even those on a downward path. His most steadfast companion is his distant kinsman, Mr. Richard Enfield. Their weekly Sunday walks are a cherished tradition, though they often pass in comfortable, companionable silence. During one such walk, their path takes them through a prosperous by-street. Amidst the inviting shop fronts, a single, sinister-looking building stands out, looking neglected and out of place. The building has no windows, only a blistered and stained door. It bears the marks of sordid negligence, a stark contrast to the cheerful cleanliness of the rest of the street. Mr. Enfield points his cane toward the door, asking Utterson if he's ever noticed it. He reveals that the door is connected in his mind with a very strange and disturbing story. Enfield recounts a chilling tale from a black winter morning. He saw a small, brutish man calmly trample a young girl at a street corner, leaving her screaming on the ground. Enfield collared the man, who showed no remorse. A crowd gathered, including the child's family and a doctor. Everyone present, even the stoic doctor, felt a powerful, instant loathing for the man. To avoid a scandal that would ruin his name, the monstrous man agreed to pay the girl's family £100. He then led them to the mysterious, neglected door to get the money. The man unlocked the door with a key, emerging not with his own money, but with £10 in gold and a cheque signed by a very well-known and respected gentleman of London. Enfield suspected forgery, but the cheque proved to be genuine. He concludes it must be a case of blackmail, where a good man is paying for the sins of his past. He calls the place Blackmail House. Utterson, deeply unsettled by the story, asks for the name of the man who trampled the child. Enfield reluctantly reveals the name, Mr. Hyde. Enfield struggles to describe Hyde, saying there is something deeply displeasing and detestable about him, a strong feeling of deformity that he cannot precisely define or name. Utterson, visibly troubled, reveals that he knows the name of the man who signed the cheque. He makes Enfield promise they will never speak of the matter again. That evening, Utterson retrieves a will from his safe, one belonging to his friend and client, Dr. Henry Jekyll. The document has long been a source of great concern for the lawyer. The will dictates that in the case of Dr. Jekyll's death or his disappearance for a period exceeding 3 months, all his possessions are to pass to this same Edward Hyde. Seeking answers, Utterson visits Dr. Lanyon, a mutual friend of his and Jekyll's. He finds a hearty, red-faced gentleman who greets him warmly, though their friendship is old. Lanyon reveals he has seen little of Jekyll for over 10 years. He says Jekyll became too fanciful, engaging in what he calls unscientific balderdash that strained their friendship. When Utterson asks if he has ever met Jekyll's protégé, Mr. Hyde Lanyon replies that he has never heard of the man, confirming Hyde is a recent acquaintance of the doctor's. Utterson spends a restless night, his mind haunted by images of a faceless Hyde committing terrible acts and exerting a strange power over the sleeping Dr. Jekyll. An obsessive curiosity grows in Utterson's mind. He feels that if he could only see Hyde's face, the mystery of his friend's bondage might finally become clear. Utterson begins to haunt the by-street, waiting for a chance to encounter Hyde. After many days of patient watching, he finally sees a small, plainly dressed man approaching the door. Utterson steps out and confronts the man, Mr. Hyde. After a tense exchange, Hyde defiantly shows his face, revealing a pale, dwarfish man with a displeasing and murderous smile. Utterson is filled with an unknown disgust and fear. He feels the man is hardly human, something troglodytic. He concludes that he has read Satan's signature upon that face. Utterson proceeds to Dr. Jekyll's main residence, a handsome house around the corner. He is admitted by Poole, the butler, into a large, comfortable hall. Poole informs him that Dr. Jekyll has gone out. Utterson, having just seen Hyde enter the laboratory, asks if that is proper. Poole confirms that Mr. Hyde has a key and all the staff must obey him. A fortnight later, Utterson stays behind after one of Jekyll's pleasant dinner parties. He is determined to speak with the doctor, a large, well-made man of 50, about his troubling will. When Utterson mentions he has been learning about young Hyde, Dr. Jekyll's handsome face grows pale to the lips, and a blackness comes about his eyes as he begs to drop the subject. Jekyll insists his position is a very strange one that cannot be mended by talking. He gives Utterson his hand and assures him that the moment he chooses, he can be rid of Mr. Hyde. Before Utterson leaves, Jekyll makes him promise that if he, Jekyll, is taken away, Utterson will ensure justice for Hyde and that his rights are protected as outlined in the will. Nearly a year later, London is shocked by a savage crime. A maidservant looking out her window on a moonlit night witnesses a brutal and unprovoked attack in the lane below. She sees an aged, beautiful gentleman with white hair, Sir Danvers Carew, politely accosting a smaller man whom she recognizes with a start as the wicked Mr. Hyde. Suddenly, Hyde breaks out in a great flame of anger. With ape-like fury, he clubs the old gentleman to the earth, trampling him underfoot until his bones shatter audibly. At the horror of the sight, the maid faints. When she recovers and calls the police, the murderer is long gone, leaving behind his mangled victim and one half of a broken walking stick. A sealed envelope bearing Mr. Utterson's name is found on the body. The police bring it to the lawyer the next morning. Utterson solemnly identifies the victim as Sir Danvers Carew. When the police show him the broken stick, Utterson is horrified. He recognizes it instantly as a cane he himself had presented to Henry Jekyll many years before. Utterson leads Inspector Newcomen through the fog-shrouded, nightmarish streets of Soho to the address Hyde had given him. He reflects on the grim reality of this being Jekyll's heir's home. An ivory-faced housekeeper opens the door. She says Hyde came in late the previous night but left less than an hour later. She seems pleased to hear he is in trouble with the law. Hyde's rooms, though luxuriously furnished, have been hurriedly ransacked. They find the other half of the murder weapon and the burned remains of a cheat book in the hearth. Later that day, Utterson goes to Jekyll's house and is led to the laboratory. He finds Dr. Jekyll in his cabinet, looking deathly sick and surrounded by chemical apparatus. Jekyll swears to God he will never set eyes on Hyde again, claiming he is done with him forever. He insists Hyde is safe and will never be heard from again. Dr. Jekyll gives Utterson a letter, written in an odd, upright hand and signed by Edward Hyde. The note states that Jekyll should not fear for Hyde's safety, as he has a sure means of escape. Jekyll claims the letter was handed in, but later his butler Poole is positive no messenger came. Utterson fears the letter was written inside the cabinet itself. That evening, Utterson shows the letter to his head clerk, Mr. Guest, a student of handwriting. Guest is also given a dinner invitation written by Jekyll for comparison. After careful comparison, Guest makes a startling discovery. The two hands are in many points identical, only sloped differently. Utterson's blood runs cold at the implication. The lawyer locks the note in his safe, horrified by his conclusion. What? Henry Jekyll forged for a murderer? The secret deepens and his fears for his friend intensify. In the wake of the murder, Hyde vanishes as if he never existed. With this evil influence withdrawn, a new life begins for Dr. Jekyll. He emerges from seclusion and renews his friendship. For more than 2 months, Jekyll is at peace. He is social, charitable, and religious. Utterson dines with him and Lanyon, seeing the trio of old friends happily reunited. Then Jekyll suddenly denies all visitors. Finding the door shut against him day after day, Utterson grows concerned and decides to visit Dr. Lanyon to inquire about the cause. Utterson is shocked by what he finds. Lanyon is visibly dying, his face etched with a deep-seated terror of the mind. He looks like a man who has received his death warrant. At the mere mention of Jekyll's name, Lanyon holds up a trembling hand, forbidding any talk of the man whom he now regards as dead to him. He insists his impending death is the result of a great shock. Lanyon cryptically says that after he is gone, Utterson may learn the truth. He cannot speak of it now and begs Utterson to change the subject or leave him in peace. Utterson writes to Jekyll, who replies in a mysterious letter. He speaks of a punishment he has brought upon himself and says he must live in extreme seclusion, respecting his break with Lanyon. A week later, Dr. Lanyon is dead. The night after the funeral, a mournful Utterson opens an envelope left by his deceased friend, marked for his eyes only. Inside is another sealed enclosure marked, not to be opened till the death or disappearance of Dr. Henry Jekyll. The lawyer is stunned to see this familiar, dreadful phrase once more. Despite his intense curiosity to uncover the mystery, Utterson's professional honor and his loyalty to his friends are stronger. He locks the packet away in the inmost corner of his safe. Utterson's desire to see Jekyll wanes. He is now fearful of what he might find within that house of voluntary bondage, preferring to get brief, unchanging reports from Poole on the doorstep. On a Sunday walk, Utterson and Enfield once again find themselves in the by-street. They stop before the strange door, remarking that they shall never see more of Mr. Hyde. Feeling uneasy about Jekyll, Utterson suggests they step into the court to look at the laboratory windows, hoping the presence of a friend might do him some good. They are surprised to see Dr. Jekyll sitting at a half-open window. He has a look of infinite sadness on his face, like some disconsolate prisoner confined to his cell. They call up to Jekyll, who replies drearily that he is feeling very low. He declines their invitation for a walk, stating that he dares not leave the house. As they speak, the smile on Jekyll's face is suddenly struck out and replaced by an expression of such abject terror and despair that it freezes their blood. The window is instantly thrust down. The glimpse of that horrifying expression is enough. Without a word, the two men turn and flee from the court, their faces pale with a shared horror. One evening, Poole, Dr. Jekyll's butler, arrives at Utterson's house in a state of great distress. He tells the lawyer that something is wrong with the doctor, and he is deeply afraid. Poole explains that Jekyll has been shut up in his cabinet for a week. There has been crying from within, and a constant demand for a certain type of medicine written on notes thrown on the stair. The voice that answers from behind the door is completely changed. Poole is convinced that his master was made away with 8 days ago, and that some other being is now in the cabinet. Poole recounts seeing the figure inside for a brief moment. It was small, dwarfish, and wore a mask. It gave a cry like a rat and scurried away from him in terror. The butler is certain the creature was not Dr. Jekyll. He believes it was Mr. Hyde and that his master has been murdered. Utterson grimly resolves that it is his duty to break down the door. Utterson and Poole arm themselves with a poker and an axe. They stand outside the cabinet door, listening to the light, odd, pacing footsteps of the creature within. Utterson calls out, demanding to see Jekyll. A voice which he recognizes as Hyde's cries out for mercy. "Down with the door, Poole!" Utterson commands with grim finality. With 5 blows, the door is shattered. They peer inside the quiet lamplit room. There, in the middle of the floor, lies the contorted body of a man, still twitching. They turn the body over and behold the face of Edward Hyde, dressed in clothes far too large for him. A crushed phial in his hand signifies he has taken his own life. They search the entire building from the cellar to the corridors, but there is no trace of Henry Jekyll, dead or alive. It is as if he has vanished from the earth. On Jekyll's business table, they find a new will, which now leaves everything to Utterson instead of Hyde. They also find a note from Jekyll and a thick sealed packet. The note instructs Utterson to first read the narrative that Dr. Lanyon had left him, and then, if he cares to know more, to read Jekyll's own confession. Utterson returns to his office to unravel the final mystery. He first breaks the seal on the narrative from his dead friend, Dr. Lanyon, hoping to finally find some answers. Lanyon's letter describes receiving a frantic request from Jekyll, begging him to break into his cabinet, retrieve a specific drawer, and await a messenger at midnight. Following the instructions, Lanyon forces the door with a locksmith, finds the drawer containing powders and a phial, and takes it back to his consulting room. At midnight, a small, shocking man arrives, a person Lanyon has never seen before. The man is dressed in clothes far too large for him and radiates a palpable sense of evil. The visitor, burning with impatience, seizes the drawer. He mixes a small amount of the red tincture with one of the powders in a graduated glass. The mixture effervesces and changes color from reddish to purple to a watery green. The visitor then gives Lanyon a choice: let him leave or witness a prodigy that will stagger Satan. Lanyon chooses to see the end. The visitor drinks the potion in one gulp. A cry follows as his body swells, his features melt and alter in a horrifying transformation. Before Lanyon's unbelieving eyes, the creature transforms. There, pale and shaken, half fainting and groping with his hands, stands Dr. Henry Jekyll. Utterson, shaken, then opens the final document. Henry Jekyll's full statement of the case. It begins with his confession of living a profound duplicity of life from a young age. His scientific studies led him to a truth. That man is not truly one, but two. He became obsessed with the idea of separating his good and evil natures into two distinct identities. He compounded a drug to achieve this. After drinking the potion, he experienced racking pangs, followed by a feeling of incredible sweetness. He had become younger, lighter, and wickeder. In the mirror, he saw for the first time the appearance of Edward Hyde, a smaller, uglier, and purely evil being. But Jekyll felt a leap of welcome. This too was myself, he writes. Jekyll began to use Hyde as a cloak to indulge in undignified pleasures without risk to his reputation. But in Hyde's hands, these pleasures soon turned monstrous and depraved. One morning, Jekyll awoke to a terrifying discovery. He had gone to bed as Henry Jekyll, but had woken up as Edward Hyde, without having taken the drug. The balance of his nature was shifting. After the murder of Sir Danvers Carew, Jekyll resolved to suppress Hyde forever. But his evil side grew stronger, and he began transforming involuntarily, in public, with no warning. His original supply of the chemical salt, which he discovered contained a unique, unknown impurity, ran out. Without it, the potion no longer worked. He was trapped as Hyde forever. If this tragic tale of duality and darkness intrigued you, please subscribe to Watch the Book for more narrative retellings of literary classics. We're glad you're here.